Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. Today we're doing a creature profile and we're now in the sea monsters category, which is quite a varied category. And this time we're going to be doing about Leviathans. Now next month I'm doing my demon video about the demon Leviathan or the sin of envy. So I'll probably I'll be covering that Leviathan then. So it will link into this one. So if you feel there's bits of information that's lacking, it's probably because I've put it all over there and I don't want to keep repeating myself and that kind of thing. So anyway, as always, I do a quote from a story where one of them is mentioned. I give you the background information I have regarding literature, folklore, etc. And then I will give you a species profile for how they interact in my fictional universe. Okay, so let's get into it. Well, it's just a term really for a sea monster that doesn't fit any particular type we know, as in not really part of the serpent variety, but it's certainly bigger than a whale. Is it quite right to have its head mounted like that? Only it does take up half the dining room. A quote from a Very Vale Wildlife Park. When describing anything in the sea monster spectrum, often the descriptions include the term Leviathan, and this encapsulates something large, laborious, and nasty all at once. There are many times Leviathan is used to describe whales, and as the word is generally referring to an element described in Christianity as the sin of envy, I'm just going to try and stick to talking about it in general rather than what I'll do for its demonic profile. So to begin with, the Leviathan is regarded as a sea serpent or sea monster bound with chaos and disorder in the universe that devours the damned and is held as a demonic beast. In the Bible it is mentioned a couple of times, including in the book of Job, and in Judaism, it is often referred to in later Judaism, particularly as a dragon, a female one. Now, in some of the writings about discussing the Leviathan, it is regarded as having been created with there being a male and a female of the pair, with the female having been the one slain because the world could not exist if the two beings bred. So thus there was only one Leviathan that was the male, and vice versa. Some flip it around the other side to explain why Leviathan is often counted as female. There's always been speculation as to what Leviathan is. Some modern thinkers like to assume it to be some kind of crocodile or whale, perhaps, or even to be an explanation to say some ancient dinosaur bones being discovered that were completely alone and that didn't match anything else. But most agree that Leviathan, it's linked to chaos, and the fact it is female and is then slain bears a great resemblance to Tiamat. We've discussed Tiamat before uh, a dragoness of the Akkadian stories, and this would make sense to be the inspiration for the Leviathan story. It would link in with the role that the Leviathan has to play in being chaotic, and linked to dark waters where dangerous things might lurk, and where it feels hostile to man. But most tend to link it to more the story of Lotan. Now, Lotan is part of the Baal cycle. Yes, if you've been listening to the demon ones, we've got a reference back to the rival god in the region. And in this, Lotan is a servant of the sea god. Now, in the story, he must be defeated by Hadad Baal to reign in chaos and battle with Yamu, the sea god, to take the title of the king of all the gods. And Yamu was the favoured one. Incidentally, the name Lotan is generally thought to mean coiled, but often linked to serpent. However, it's assumed that calling Lotan the serpent is because an earlier version, Temtum, I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing that, is described as a servant. We can see where this links in with the Leviathan, and as Leviathan is said to be destined to be killed at the end of times, bears a similarity to the struggles of Apep and Ra. Now, in the Tanakh, the Almighty is praised for having made Leviathan, and it is described as being fire-breathing, having impenetrable scales, being called indomitable above all things, but also constantly referred to as the terrible serpent. But in Judaism in general, although they are fire-breathing and often purported to be serpentine and draconic, particularly in later understandings, the Leviathan is representative of the beast of the deep and the behemoth, the giant beast of the land, the pair of them to be served up to the righteous at the end of time. Behemoth is male and Leviathan is female. There is balance, but whenever I think of them as beings to be served, the later connections between Leviathan and whales comes to mind. Indeed, some scholars believe the whale to eat Jonah could be described as a Leviathan, and some have mistaken this to mean that it is Leviathan, but there is no link. though some do say that the whale to swallow Jonah just missed being swallowed by Leviathan itself. Overall, though, the term Leviathan is most equated to whales and sea serpents, and so within the Vale it is the term used to fit gigantic aquatic life that doesn't fit into other categories and is inherently wild. It is not a term for demonic beings, as there is only one demon Leviathan, and it is not equated to dragons or indeed to serpents. Instead, it is most often linked to fish and whales that stand out in the Vale for being unique, one-offs that are only reported in one area once and do not fit the size parameters of any other being. They link most to the mysterious giant beings that in cryptozoology are titled ningen, after the beings in Japanese folklore, the human whale-like beings reportedly filmed, photographed, and seen around the Antarctic, but never really proven. So there's no real defining characteristics bar size of these beings. So side is neutral, created by, unclear, assumed demonic offspring with whales and other such creatures. Created for, unclear. Created when, unclear. Physical description, generally fish or whale-like aquatic entities that are larger than normal, often sizes thought impossible. Abilities varied but often thick hides and dwell within the deepest oceans. Most known for huge size. Weaknesses, they are mortal beings. Number, unclear. Well-known beings, the ningen of Antarctica that is regularly reported but no physical evidence has been produced. Characters in stories, the head of one grouper-type being. The size of a two-story house is on display in the Vale Wildlife Park. Final comments, Leviathans are just huge, but it's hard to discuss outside of the biblical creature, so consider this one as going hand in hand with the Leviathan demon piece of next month. Anyway, thank you for listening.